Now here in Chapter 3, it's time to talk about the notes and chords that lie outside the diatonic major-minor paradigm and all the related modes. We do that using grayscale boxes that are no longer part of our color scheme, if you will. So this is where our grayscales come in. Grayscale blocks indicate things that are outside of this major-minor paradigm. For example, here is another famous jazz standard, Cherokee. You'll notice right off the bat, in the second measure, there is an F7 sharp 5, and in the colored box is a sharp 5 and a grayscale light gray. What this is telling us is the F7 by itself would otherwise function as a 5 in the key of 2 flats. But the sharp 5 itself is an altered note. And this little gray box let us know that when we get there, if we want to really have the flavor of the progression, we need to take that into account. Toward the end of the A section, we'll find another place where we have a grayscale box, this one a little bit darker. This is a D minor 7 flat 5, G7 flat 9 progression. Whenever you see a 2-5 based on a minor 7 flat 5 and a dominant 7 flat 9, you can be sure you're working with a compositional technique around a harmonic minor. In this particular case, it's the C harmonic minor. That is the 2-5. And here is the minor 2-5-1 in its entirety. However, notice that the C minor 7th is not color-coded the same grayscale and that the 1 is in parentheses. We'll talk about that in a minute. How High the Moon, another big jazz standard by Morgan Lewis. Let's look at this and where the grayscale comes up. Once again, here's an A minor 7, flat 5, D7. Without the flat 9, but basically it's doing the same thing. The flat 9 would be an additional extension, but this, once again, is working as a harmonic minor. In this particular case, it's a G harmonic minor. And of course, we have the complete 2-5-1 moving into the G minor. However, once again, because it's a minor 7, the 1, the lowercase I, is in parentheses. So exactly why does some of these blocks contain a designation of a Roman numeral but have it in parentheses? Parentheses indicate a non-diatonic relationship. So that means there might be a function mentioned within the box or within the cell, but it's not diatonic. It's not within the key of the row that it sits in. Let's look at an example. So here's Cherokee again. The 2-5-1 in C minor 7, as we talked about, that C minor 7 has parentheses around the 1. Why? Because C minor 7 is not a chord that's diatonic to either the C harmonic minor or the C melodic minor. In compositions, you'll often see minor chords tonicized by a 2-5 in harmonic minor. However, if that minor chord that is being tonicized is a minor 7th, it actually does not belong to the scale of harmonic minor. So in this particular case, the D minor 7 flat 5, the G7 flat 9, both are completely diatonic to the C harmonic minor. But when you get to the C minor 7, you are no longer working within that scale. And you're going to have to play something different to make it sound right. This is extremely important. And if you don't believe me, take Pat Metheny's word for it.
With the exception of major 7s on minor 7 chords, I can pretty much hear all 12 tones on any chord now. And that was something that took a long time to get together.
So it's important for us to realize that if we do a 2-5-1 in a harmonic minor or even a melodic minor, if we get to the 1 and it's a minor 7th, that we are no longer working with those 2 previous scales. No harmonic minor, no melodic minor. We've got to use something else that takes into account the flat 7 associated with the C minor 7. So yes, it's a 2-5-1 in C minor. However, when you get to the C minor 7th, don't find yourself lost using harmonic minor or melodic minor scales to play the 1. There's another place within Cherokee where you're going to see some parentheses. Here we are in measures 3 and 4. Now this is a 2-5 progression in the key of 3 flat, but they have functionality within the 2 flat above it. So let's focus for a second on the B flat 7. The B flat 7 is functioning as a secondary dominant. Let's go to the chord wheel and talk about the concept. So within the key of 2 flats or B flat, the natural dominant 7th is an F7. That's the 5 chord. The B flat 7, on the other hand, is here. In the key of 3 flats, the B flat 7 would be the dominant of this particular key. So the B flat 7 makes your ear think that the tonic is going to be the E flat major 7, even though in our key, the E flat major 7 is the 4. Thus, if we move it one direction here and use this is the 5 of the 4, or the secondary dominant. So back to our 2 flats. Here's the 1, a 2, 5, 1 here would work this way. But if we wanted to tonicize the 4, we just play some notes that represent the 5 of the now new one, but the 4. So the B flat 7 is the dominant. And you could always throw in the 2 before any 5. That's called back cycling. In the same way, there are other secondary dominants. Like look over here. See the D? It is the 5 of the 6, or 5/6. So that means in this key, if we played a D 7th, it would be the 5 of 6, or a G, the G minor. So this is the 5 of the 6. So you can throw secondary dominants everywhere, and that's why we have a secondary dominant B flat 7 leading to the E flat. Back to our progression, we'll find another set of parentheses in measures 11 and 12. This time it's a Roman numeral 2, or a major 2 because they're uppercase, of a C7. Let's go to the chord wheel and see what this represents. In the key of 2 flats, we know that F7 is the natural dominant. Over here you'll see within the C, a C7th can be represented 2 ways. One is the Roman numeral capital 2, or the 5 of 5, or 5/5. The 5 of 5 would be the secondary dominant. So if this C7 was followed by an F, or an F7, we would know that it's functioning as the 5 of 5. However, back to our progression, we see that it's followed by the C minor 7. So it is not functioning as a 5 of 5. So back to our chord wheel, we'll see that instead of calling it a 5 of 5, being that it's not followed by an F, we'll call it a major 2, or a 2/7 using the uppercase. And we know then that it's not being followed by the 5, it's just functioning differently. So back to our progression, we can see that there are 3 different places where we have parentheses. But look at this other element over here. So here we can see the E flat major 7, which is designated as the 4 in 2 flats, could also function as the 1 in 3 flats. Obviously the 2, 5, 1. So even though we have said that it's probably being looked at as the 4 from a compositional standpoint, it still could function as the 1. So that's why those capital I's there, the Roman numeral 1s, are not put in parentheses, because it harmonically fits. It is diatonic to that key. It's just not the primary function, although when you're soloing, you could play with it as a 1 as opposed to a 4, and it would sound a little bit different. It would sound more like a modulation. So let's look at another famous jazz standard. Here is How High the Moon. Once again, we have another minor 2-5-1. A minor 7 flat 5, D7, it could be a D7 flat 9, leading off to a G minor 7. Again, because it's a G minor 7 as opposed to a minor major 7, or even a G minor 6, which would work with the melodic minor, we are no longer working within the key, so the 1, the small Roman numeral I, is in parentheses. That brings to a close chapter 3. The next chapter introduces the revolutionary concept of harmonic divergence. I think you'll find it eye-opening. See you then.